On October 28, 1955, to celebrate the anniversary of the defense of Sevastopol, the Soviet military battleship Novorossiysk entered the bay of the city. On October 29 at 1:31 a.m. there was an explosion under the bow of the ship, which was repeated 30 seconds later. The tragedy took the lives of 609 sailors and officers of the Novorossiysk crew and sailors from other ships sent to fight the sinking and fires. The exact cause of the ship's death is not clear. There are several versions, from a German mine to an act of terrorism by Western intelligence services. Pride of the Italian Navy and a Soviet ship. Before joining the Soviet Navy and becoming the Novorossiysk, the ship was the pride of the Italian Navy and was called the Julius Caesar. After the war ended, Italy, as an ally of Germany, was supposed to pay reparations to the victor countries. In payment of the debt instead of the newest battleships, which the USSR claimed, Moscow received Julius Caesar. In February 1949 the ship arrived to Sevastopol, where it was renamed to Novorossiysk. Until its demise, the ship was constantly modernized and was transformed into one of the strongest combat units of the Soviet Black Sea Fleet. The moment of death. The first explosion, the power of which was measured in 1200 kg of trotyl, left a hole of 150 square meters in the ship's hull and immediately killed up to 170 crewmen who were sleeping in the forward cabin. The sailors spent more than 2 hours rescuing their ship. When the bow section of the ship sank, it became pointless to tow the ship and the command decided to rescue the crew. Due to the rapid sinking, many of the sailors were trapped in the compartments. After the vessel capsized, only 9 men were able to be rescued and pulled through the openings in the stern. Divers could hear the crew trapped inside the ship singing Variag and giving signals by banging on metal, but by November 1 the sounds had ceased. In the spring of 1957 the Novorossiysk was raised from the bottom, but an investigation into the circumstances of her death began immediately after the tragedy. German mine. Initially the investigation developed a variant of self-explosion of artillery ammunition, but after the work of the commission this version was discarded. The divers squad leader Kravtsov wrote in his report that the ends of the shell plating are bent inward. The character of the hole, the burrs from the cladding, would suggest that the explosion was from the outside of the ship. The officer's words were also confirmed by the technical expertise. The commission concluded that the Novorossiysk sank due to contact with German mines from World War II. An independent investigation by Professor Nikolai Muru also confirms the version. After the sinking of the battleship 17 similar mines were found at the bottom of Sevastopol Bay, which were located within a radius of only 100 meters from the place of tragedy. A planned attack. The commission did not rule out the possibility of sabotage. It was indirectly confirmed by an experimental explosion carried out by the investigation, which showed that the real explosions were twice as powerful as the mines. Also, the investigation team did not take into account the evidence of the immediate participants of the tragedy. Officer Salamatin, who was in charge of the emergency party of the Kerch cruiser, recalled, "I noticed that where there was an explosion, it looked like a hole was made with a hog. Apparently there was a directional explosion. Very strong. The boards near the bow were perfectly intact." A part of researchers speaks about the presence of 2 craters from the explosion near the anchorage of the ship. However, these data have no documentary evidence. Also, supporters of the sabotage version are confused by the presence of 2 explosions with an interval of 30 seconds. For an accidental detonation or triggering of a German mine's non-contact fuse, it is too large. Most likely, the time interval of detonations was pre-planned. Who could have planned the attack? One popular theory is that the Novorossiysk was sunk by the legendary Italian submarine saboteurs. The detachment was commanded by Prince Valerio Borghese, nicknamed Black Prince, who was married to a Russian noblewoman and was considered a convinced fascist, who did not give up his position even after Italy's defeat in the war. Borghese could not accept that the pride of the Italian navy, the battleship Julius Caesar, was serving the enemy. So he and his comrades in arms, which included first-rate divers, as well as pilots of small submarines and guided torpedoes, carried out an operation to destroy the ship. According to another version, the attack was carried out by the British Secret Services. It is doubtful whether individuals or foreign saboteurs had enough resources and time to carry out such a complex and large-scale task. The motives of the attackers are also unclear, since if the sabotage had failed, it could have led to World War III. They blew it up by their own people. Candidate of Technical Sciences Oleg Sergeyev put forward the version that the ship was sunk by the order of the KGB. According to his investigation, the ship was blown up by two charges laid on the bottom of the bay right under the art cellars. The first explosion did not seriously damage the ship, but it created a gas bubble, which concentrated the explosive energy of the second charge, giving it a cumulative effect. The motive behind the actions of the special services was to fight the Navy commanders, who were hammering out huge sums of money to finance the fleet. The tragedy in Sevastopol became an occasion to the defeated plenum of the CPSU Central Committee in October 1957. On it, Khrushchev declared that the party would not spend 100 billion rubles on building obsolete destroyers, which should be replaced by nuclear-powered submarines. After the sinking of Novorossiysk, the navy was reduced, and the outdated ships, for the reconstruction of which huge sums of money were spent, were sought up for scrap. The price of hundreds of lives was a reprimand. Experts unanimously agree that it was not the explosion that killed so many lives, but a series of circumstances starting with the technical condition of the ship and ending with the talentless command of senior management. Structurally, a battleship like the Novorossiysk was supposed to stay afloat after refitting. But the ship, despite endless repairs and upgrades, was not ready for service. Its bulkheads lacked the design strength, the ship was overloaded, and most of the ship's general systems had never been adjusted. The battleship had an enormous number of passages and openings that would not close. Some of the manholes had been cut on purpose to make it easy for the crew to navigate. The actions of the men after the explosion also played their part. They tried to haul the vessel to the shallow end, but due to disorganization they failed to do it. They had underestimated the depth, taking into account the silt. In the end, fearing accusations of not taking all measures to save the ship, Viktor Parkhomenko and Nikolai Kulikov delayed with the order to save the crew. When it was given, the sailors were already dying under the ship. But the commanders were saved. Although they were on the ship, they chose the safest place, the battleship's hull. In general, if it were not for the human factor and the condition of the Novorossiysk itself, the scale of the tragedy would have been much smaller. By the way, Parkhomenko and Kulikov were found responsible for the loss of the ship and 609 people. They were reprimanded and removed from their positions. As for the battleship, 2 years after the sinking it was raised and towed to Cossack Bay in Sevastopol. There the Novorossiysk was dismantled and sent for melting. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends. Give it a thumbs up. Write in the comments about what else interesting you can tell about this video. See you in the new video.